Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the country, and welcome to our conversation about how micro internships can help transform your early career recruitment. My name is Kristen Schrader, and it's my privilege to lead the partnerships team here at Parker Dewey. And for today's conversation, don't worry if you are unfamiliar with micro internships. We're going to start with that, what they are, why they work, and most importantly, how you can implement them at your organization. Whether your organization might be a smaller company, maybe you're under-resourced, only one or two folks on your team, maybe even smaller than that. Maybe you are a massive for-profit organization with hundreds, if not thousands of workers in a large-scale early career recruitment program. Maybe you're a government agency, nonprofit. Again, excited that you're here, excited to talk about how this can hopefully address some of the challenges that you might be experiencing with early career recruiting. My background, just so that you're aware, my career started in human resources. So I've been to plenty of career fairs, both as a recruiter, also helping to run them, also as a student looking for jobs. And so very familiar with all the different hats and roles, but also intimately familiar with the challenges of hiring folks. And that at the core is what we're going to be here talking about, is how this model can help you with that the challenging role of trying to find the next person on your team. So with that in mind, I want to first tell you a little bit about Parker Dewey itself. As I mentioned, I lead the partnerships team, which primarily means that I get to work mostly with our college and university partners. Some of you may have heard about this webinar today from one of our university partners, and if so, thank you, and thank you to those who mentioned it. But I also get to, on occasion, talk directly to companies and hear firsthand about, again, how challenging it can be to recruit. And so what our model and our platform is designed to do is to help you access, engage, assess, and ultimately hire that early career talent. And we'll talk and define that who we're talking about here. But our method of doing this is through these short-term paid professional projects, what we call micro-internships. Now, we coined the phrase and the concept about 10 years ago. And along the way, we've learned a few things here and there about what makes a good project, how can you effectively position these projects to be a great recruiting tool, why it's a great additional strategy for you, even if you already go to dozens of career fairs and have specific colleges that you're building relationships with and so on. Lastly, our micro interns. Who are these students? Well, these are college students, recent graduates, folks who might be pursuing a non-degree program. Maybe they have years of work experience doing something that they don't want to do anymore. But most are going to be your classic 18 to 20-ish year old undergraduate or graduate student pursuing their education at the thousands of higher education institutions nationwide. These projects allow them to get real-world paid experiences while also allowing you to augment your talent pipeline and to improve your overall hiring outcomes. And I'll give you some data to show how as we go through this. So what are micro-internships? Well, we define them as short-term paid professional projects completed on demand by highly motivated early career talent. Now, there's a lot in that definition, so let me unpack a few things. First and foremost, these are designed to be project-based experiences, meaning, occasionally we'll have companies that'll copy and paste exactly what they've posted on Indeed, LinkedIn, Handshake, or elsewhere and say, okay, I'm looking for. That's not what we do. We are not a platform for full-time jobs and internships. Our projects are just that, designed to be centered around a specific deliverable, but allowing you a great deal of flexibility to determine what it is that you need to have done and when. Most of these projects are 10 to 40 hours in total. So a 10-hour project might be completed in a few days, but typically it's going to be completed by the student over the course of a couple of weeks. 40-hour project, again, typically not within a 1-week period of time, but it usually stretched over several weeks, if not several months, but you set the timeline. They're also posted year-round. We really don't see a lot of seasonality when it comes to micro-internships, but our goal is to make it easy for you, easy for the student. And so we handle all of the administration of these projects. The students are paid by Parker Dewey. They're on our books, but you set the rate. And so most of these are shaking out around $20 per estimated hour of work, but they're fixed fee. And you, again, determine the cost. And I'll show you how all that works in a moment. Last characteristic to know is that these are designed to be professional projects, similar to what a student would do during a typical summer internship or maybe that first job after they completed their degree. This isn't babysit my kids, walk my dog, those kinds of things. And through these projects, it's allowing you to really get to know the student, get to work with them, but in a bite-sized format. So there's a little bit more room for working with a student that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise considered for that longer term role. Maybe the student that is at a school that's not necessarily your target school. Maybe that community college student that would be amazing for your summer internship, but can't give up the full-time job that's paying the bills. There's a lot of different types of students out there, and this allows you a chance to get to know a really broad, talented pool of candidates nationwide. So to get started, simply you post your project, select the student that you want to work with, and the work gets done. Now it's designed to be very, very easy, partly because we are taking care of as much of that administrative headache as possible. We're helping you every single step of the way. So first of all, posting that project, well, most micro-internships are coming from one of our many templates. And so you decide what needs to be done, the timeline, when you need that project to be completed, and any other details and so on. So just to illustrate, let's just start with our project library. Now, this is designed to give you a starting point, to open your mind a little bit of what some of these typical micro-internships are, but this is definitely not a comprehensive list. There's plenty of projects that we see all the time that are customized just based on your needs. But if you maybe need help in finance or accounting or marketing or operations or IT, these might be some starting points that can help you get the ball rolling. So for example, maybe you need some support in your sales and business development team. And maybe, I need some more leads, or would love to have a fresh perspective on some new leads to bring into your team. We personally and have seen this particular project, have used micro interns ourselves to help with lead generation. Or maybe your project centers around data cleanup or going through lists if you're going to an event or something like that. But whatever these projects are, just click post now. And that project will pre-populate once you have your Parker Dewey account. Now, Parker Dewey is free to create an account. It's free to post your project. So it's very, very easy for you to get started with very minimal risk. Now, this project itself pre-populates, but you can change and customize it however you want. So for example, maybe you want the project to not start a week from now. Maybe you'd like it to start by Monday. And maybe you really need it to be done sooner than by the end of the month. So you'd really love to give students just a couple of weeks to get this completed. No problem. And if you're looking for a different number of companies, if you want to specify your target industry or market or whatever, you can customize the description however you would like. The next section asks you to specify your location, where you can say where you are located, which helps with time zones and coordinating logistics and so on. But know that most micro-internships are remote opportunities. You can post it as on-site. So for example, I see the question in the chat around accounting types of projects. Certainly I'll post that link to the project library momentarily, where you can dig into whichever topics or types of projects you'd like. So just one moment, Stephanie, thank you for that question. But our friends in finance and accounting, they regularly are asking for students to come on-site for their projects. So whenever possible, we recommend remote because it makes it easier for you logistically, but we also recognize that it might be something that needs to be done on site. So no problem, you can certainly toggle that over. The next section is where you can see a suggested place to start, or at least to think about for the compensation. Now we recommend, based on industry standards of a typical going rate for an internship, to approximately pay around $20 per estimated hour of work. But you can adjust this based on your needs and your budget. Why do we recommend $20? Well, it comes from the NACE, National Association of Colleges and Employers. They survey the current rate for internships nationwide. And so it's around $20 per hour. But again, we do see folks who pay less or more than that based on a variety of different circumstances. But for this particular project, if it's scoped to be a 20-hour project, the student would receive $400. The amount that you would pay is 10% above that. Now, what the student sees and what they receive of that $444 is $400. And remember, Parker Dewey is paying the student. So that $444 and some change, that includes the amount that the students would receive. The 10% that Parker Dewey retains covers our costs of administering the project, providing the student with a 1099 if they need one, and so on. So again, the administrative pieces that you don't have to worry about. But there's also a lot of flexibility. As I mentioned before, there is no cost to creating an account or posting your project. There's also no cost if you want to hire the student long-term. In fact, we want that to happen. That's our goal. That's our mission, is that this be an incredibly valuable resource for you to hopefully find the next member of your team. So certainly you don't owe us a dime if you want to hire that student for the open internship full-time role or whatever might be relevant. And in fact, we regularly see companies who are interested not necessarily in just working with one student, but who may want to hire 10, 20 or more students or fewer. There's no obligation. You only receive an invoice once you've selected however many students you want to work with. And you can, again, scale these up or down depending on your needs, goals, and budget. And so for working with 10 students in this particular example on a 10-hour project, that's less than the cost of bringing a team to a typical career fair. Now, scrolling on down, some extra sections that you need to complete here is if you have a specific skill or skills in mind. So for instance, we regularly see Power BI is a standard skill for some of the projects that might be required in data science. We'll see coding languages and things like that that will, you can fill in whatever you'd like for the skills section. And then the last couple of sections is where you can target this project to specific schools or leave it open to students nationwide. Now, if you have lots of locations geographically across the country, if you're looking for a really diverse, eclectic talent pool and really want lots and lots of student interest from students that you may otherwise have missed, I recommend leaving it open because you're going to get a really great mix of students from a variety of different majors, programs, schools that, again, may or may not have been on your radar. But I also recognize geographically or based on your goals, you may want to use this as a resource for building a deeper relationship for target schools. And I'll show you some examples of that shortly. And so if that's the case, you certainly can say that you only want students from certain schools. And I'll pick on my alma mater. If I can make this just available for Ohio State students, I can add additional schools if I wish, or again, I can X this out and leave it open. Now, you do have the ability to filter candidates based on school. So if you do leave it open, you can always find students at your target schools if you wish to do so. Similarly, you can also filter students based on certain programs or affiliations. Maybe they are a scholarship recipient from one of our nonprofit partners. So for example, we have a partnership with the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, and their Dell Scholars program is one of our affiliated partnerships. Or maybe you have an affinity for student veterans. Students can add veteran to their profile, and that would allow your project to be seen only for students who have that in their profile. Now, the last section here to fill out is your questions. What do you want the students to answer in order to apply to your project? And a really great trick here is to think about what questions you're having the students answer in a phone screen. Put those questions here, and now you're seeing their written responses to your phone screen questions, which will save you significant time when it comes to vetting these students for these opportunities. Because they'll be required to answer these 2, 3, however many questions that you want. There's always at least one question, which is this: why should we select you? And then when you're ready, click post, and you're good to go. Now, from there, You will only see those students who have applied to your project. You'll see their resume if they have one in their profile, you'll see their LinkedIn profile, but you'll also be able to see how they answered those short answer application questions that you asked, those phone screen questions, so that you can determine whether or not they have what it is that you're looking for that particular project. Now, Stephanie, I did see your question around the accounting types of projects, so do want to make sure I address that. So let me put the link to the entire project library in the chat, so you can certainly find whatever projects might be relevant to you by looking at that list. Now, once you've selected 1, 2, or however many students that you want to work with, you are immediately put in touch with that student. You'll get their name, their email address, and they get your name and email address as well, so that you can begin to work together. We recommend that micro-internships begin with a quick 10, 15-minute meeting via Zoom, Teams, or whatever platform you wish. And then the student typically works autonomously at whatever schedule works best for them, completing the project on whatever timeline that you and they have agreed upon. Now, that kickoff conversation is a really great foundation so that you can make sure that you are giving them the background that they need about the project, clarifying your expectations, how do you want to communicate with each other, what the deadlines are, if there's any milestone deadlines, etc. You can go over all of those things in that kickoff conversation. But then again, after that, it's hands off. The students working independently, using their own software, computer, etc., and then providing you with whatever that final deliverable is at the end of the project. And we find that the students don't really need a lot of handholding. They're getting a great education at whatever school or schools that they're attending, and they're eager and excited to put to work what they're learning in the classroom. We have an over 98% project success rate because, again, the students are highly motivated to exceed your expectations. And if you do have any hiccups, that's what our our client success team is here and happy to help support, to basically be that intermediary between you and the student to make sure that you both have what you need and have a positive relationship working together. And again, when the project is marked as completed by you, that's when we provide the student with the payment. Again, you don't need to worry about any of that administrative piece. So why does this work so well? Well, here's some data we hear directly from the students. We survey them every year, asking them straight up, how do you want to be recruited? How do you want to engage with companies who want to hire you? And what they've told us is that 75% of them said they start really early in their academic program. In their first 2 years of college, 75% of them have said, yep, we're already starting to explore what we want to do with our degree. But 71% of them have said that the traditional college recruiting methods don't really help them to demonstrate all that they can bring to your organization. And I'm sure we can all relate to that. Those career fair conversations that I remember having in my recruiting days, they were very surface level. They went quick. It's hard to remember all of the students and to really have that positive impression. And so, that this allows you a chance to reach these students that maybe not as polished top of their feet or work, but they do a phenomenal job working together. Or it also helps you engage those students that don't come to your table at the career fair, that just may not have been attracted to your organization because they don't know who you are, or that they are not necessarily seeing themselves in a role in marketing because they're majoring in something that is not or is adjacent to that. The students have also told us 95% of the time, or not, 95% of them, have said that the way they want to be recruited is through these short-term work experiences. They love internships. They love being able to put to work what they're learning in the classroom. This makes it easier for both of you to have more opportunities to be able to decide, is this truly a good fit long-term? But this also works really, really well for employers. Through one platform, through the Parker Dewey platform, you are able to reach students across all academic programs and majors, a nationwide pool of talent. Every college and university, workforce development organizations, boot camps, training, certification programs, a whole gamut of talent, of students that are early in their career, but very excited to get started. And we've also found that 80% of the students who are selected for micro-internships come from historically underrepresented backgrounds. And we're really excited about that statistic because it shows and aligns with our mission of trying to create opportunities for students that otherwise might have been overlooked. But we have nothing to do with it, really, because the students are the ones who are getting selected by the companies, by you. And so they're the ones that are rising to the top of the applicant pool because of all the great things that they would bring to your organization. And we see that the final deliverable that the students are doing is really top notch. In fact, 97% of these companies have said that that final product has met or exceeded their expectations. And for companies who are using this as a hiring tool, they find that this is significantly making a reduction in their overall costs for hiring because the students are more likely to stay at that organization long term. 98% of students who completed micro internships stay at their company that they work for at least a year or more, compared to just 45% of early career hires, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics overall. So why is this so effective? Why does this work so well? Well, a big part of it is that through this process, you're able to assess not just students' technical skills, whatever they're doing for the project, but also their core skills. And if you look at the bolded words on the slide, these are all characteristics that no matter the job you're recruiting for, we all want these things in every early career hire. Right before this webinar, I was actually doing an interview with somebody, and every one of these characteristics were things that I was looking for. I want somebody who is self-starter, who's going to proactively say, yes, I want to work for your organization. And just by simply applying for a Parker Dewey micro internship, the student is demonstrating that. We don't mass enroll any students onto our platform. Every single student who's there has proactively signed up. Their school did not do that for them. And just by applying to the project, again, the student did that. They're the ones who filled out that application, and you're able to see the quality of their responses. You're able to see that they're interested in your organization. By working with them, you can identify things like how coachable are they? If you gave them feedback, how did they respond? Did they communicate it professionally and effectively? Did they turn that final project in on time? Again, all things that we really need in our organization, but can be really hard to assess, certainly on a student's resume, certainly in an interview, and really until you work together, it can be really hard to assess any of these things. And then, of course, the work product itself helps you identify, does a student have the technical skills that you're looking for, but also, do they ask good questions along the way? Did they put some really interesting perspective or thought into whatever this project was that you were working on, and so on? And all of this feeds into some really powerful and actionable data. We call this tool Parker Dewey Plus. And so for companies that are using micro internships at scale, they're able to see things like, oh, okay, where are the students that are interested in my company geographically located? What kind of diversity or what equitable opportunities am I creating for students from various backgrounds that might be a priority for my company? What feedback are my hiring managers giving to these students? And again, that provides some really powerful data for companies using this at scale. And we can talk more about this. We're going to be doing webinars about all these different resources. So certainly happy to talk through. We also have a free trial that you can that you can sign up for to be able to access this data on demand while also having access to some internships some micro internships at no cost. And again, happy to talk more about that if that's relevant. So how are companies using Parker Dewey and micro internships at scale? Well, we call that a micro internship program, and I want to give you a few examples. But first of all, it starts with a conversation with you to better understand what are the challenges that you're facing right now with your early career recruiting strategy. A lot of companies have really specific problems, challenges that they're trying to solve. We'll start there. What's that job that you're trying to fill? What is your ultimate long-term goal? What are you trying to build deeper relationships at X schools? Those are the things that we love to understand so that we can make recommendations about what program design would be the most appropriate for you. So for example, what is that perpetually hard to fill role that your organization has right now that you just can't get enough folks to apply for? Well, we find micro internships can be a phenomenal way to broaden your talent pipeline for those difficult to fill roles. And for that, it starts with what we call a job audition project. For example, Smith& Nephew is a medical device company, multi-billion-dollar British company, and they have their target schools, they go to career fairs and all of that, but they still had open roles to fill for their rotational development program in sales. And so they used a micro internship. And this project essentially was do research on one of our products, develop a sales pitch, and deliver it via Zoom. Real simple project. And they were able to engage. In their case, they started with 12 candidates, ended up hiring 5 full-time hires from that pool of 12. So for a cost per hire reduction of over 70%, they were able to convert a significant number of students. And these are students that would not have otherwise known about or this opportunity, that were at target schools and not target schools. So it saved money when it came to not having to go to different career fairs. So it really allowed them to broaden their talent pipeline to reach some of that talent they otherwise would have missed. The other thing I love about this example, though, is if you think about what this says about your organization, because you're essentially paying the students and engaging with them on these projects as part of the hiring process. That's really some great differentiator for a company like Smith & Nephew to show what kind of investment that they make in their early career hire, that they'll give you a real project to work on as part of that process to really see if this is a mutual fit. Now, when it comes to identifying projects, that's where we can help. We have a team of folks who, if we start with your job description for that difficult to fill role, we'll help you identify projects, basically dissect that project or that job description into identifying what projects would be a good fit for you to be able to identify if a student's a good fit for that role. So for example, an entry-level data marketer role, here's a basic description of that role. And it says, okay, you're going to assist in gathering and analyzing and reporting marketing data. Awesome. Those characteristics can certainly align with a project around data cleanup and visualization. And that's a project we can help create for you. And then it helps you to identify, is a student a good fit based on their attention to detail? Do they have a good, clear understanding of data and how to manipulate data? Can they portray it professionally? And so on. And again, we help you with this process, so that's not something that you need to worry about. Maybe your goals, though, are around brand building. And maybe you're thinking not so much about the immediate roles that you're trying to fill, but building your pipeline and building your brand with target institutions 3-6 months down the line who would be great candidates for those open roles for maybe winter of 2025 and 2026. Where's time going? Well, for that, we see campus ambassadors being a very effective strategy. We saw this with Train Technologies, who identified campus ambassadors at their target schools. They decided to run them as micro-internships so that they wouldn't have to worry about that admin, but they could also build relationships with a variety of different students across different academic semesters, so they didn't have to worry about onboarding and then just cycling through students right and left. We made that process very easy for them so they could have that campus ambassador strategy and still be able to administer it at scale at their target schools. And one last example of a program that we're seeing is also around brand building or talent pipeline building, but this is predominantly focused on first and second year students. So for example, we see companies who are not necessarily looking for summer of 2025, but thinking about 2026, 2027, and beyond. I had a call just last week with one of the big 4 accounting firms who said, yeah, we want to get on the radar of first year students. Well, this is a great way to do so, to start building relationships with that high caliber, high potential talent who are excited about working for your organization. Maybe they haven't heard too much about it, but they're excited about the projects. That's what we saw with Xylem. They were a multi-billion-dollar water technology company that frankly most students have never heard of. I know I certainly hadn't. But they worked on and posted projects across their organization, engaging talent that's with students at hundreds of schools nationwide, but really expanding their aperture of students and talent at schools that, again, they may or may not have had relationships with, but those were all students that became part of their campus recruiting talent pipeline that they could then nurture, convert, and ultimately hire. So how does this all fit in? Where can this go? Well, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of different options for where this conversation could take you depending on your goals. So for example, you might just have an on-demand project that you need help with right now. Great. You can post that. It's one project. You can set the rate, set the timeline. You're good to go. Maybe you're interested in trying this out, seeing how this can work from a campus recruiting strategy. Again, we have a free trial where you can try it for 60 days, get access to that dashboard that I briefly mentioned, and have 5 micro interns that you can work with at no cost to you. And then we have additional longer term engagement opportunities that provide you access to more students, more projects, and more data so that depending on your goals, you can really see and experience and enjoy this and the benefits of this at scale. So that pilot program, I've outlined a few of the key benefits. You can look through it at your leisure, but for the sake of time, I do want to highlight, why are schools and why are companies doing this? Well, it's particularly around meeting some specific targets that, it's mid-March right now. Maybe they're just nervous about where and how it's going to align, and they're nervous about meeting some of those end of year goals. It can address those pain points or something perhaps even longer. Implementing a micro internship program and certainly posting those projects can be done extremely quickly. Most micro internships are posted and filled within a matter of a few days, meaning you post your project, maybe it's a 10-hour project. Yeah. If you open it to lots of students at all schools, within 24 hours, you're going to have a really great candidate pool. Maybe you're looking at something a little bit more narrow. Maybe you have something more specified to support target schools. Maybe you want to give it a few more days just to make sure lots of students have heard about it. But again, this is something that can be done very quickly. And a micro internship pilot program, that too can be done within a week of having an initial conversation. So very, very quick and easy. And again, most projects are filled within that 48-hour time frame. So as far as the hiring challenges that you hope this will solve, I know I've mentioned a few examples, but I do want to highlight that when you get the slides later, you can dig into this further, but we have specific tangible examples for every single one of these pain points and challenges that you can look at your leisure. Not only are these examples, but also some actionable ideas of how micro internships can help address that specific pain point and challenge. So again, feel free to look at that at your leisure, but I do want to, as far as next steps, first and foremost, thank you for your interest, for taking the time to hear a little bit more about this. But I'd love to understand where and how this can fit in to help however we can. I know the students are so excited to be able to put to work with your organization, what they're learning in the classroom. So this is truly an opportunity to engage a really highly motivated talent pool. A lot of students are on spring break, are going to be coming back from spring break. And then these last few months before the spring semester ends, they're very excited about making sure they're ready to go for whatever they have planned for the summer. Many of them are still looking for internship opportunities. So this is, if you're still looking for interns, this again can be a great way to start to get your opportunities on these students' radar. So again, happy to help, happy to talk through where and how this might fit into your organization's longer term goals. I'm going to put my email address in the chat in case that's useful. But again, happy to stick around if you have additional questions. But thank you so much for your interest today. And please let us know how we can help.